This talk was originally titled, "The Metaverse is Here Today." I think we should pivot. Right now there's a lot of things going on that were not happening when I sent the email that said that was going to be the title of the talk. So I want to talk about bridging realities, and I hope you all will go along with me. I want to talk about mixed reality specifically. In the past year, we've seen this headset. Anybody know who makes this headset? Thank you. Apple makes this headset. So this is the Apple Vision Pro. It's being advertised as a mixed reality headset. And Quest 3 dropped today, also a mixed reality headset. These are shifting the types of experiences that we need to make and that people are expecting. And here's the truth. You aren't ready for mixed reality. There's some things that go into creating these experiences that we aren't familiar with as developers and as designers and as experience hosts. So when all of this really started to come about, virtual reality, we got the Quest headsets that really took it from being a hobbyist PC VR experience to something that is now much more mainstream, especially among young people. During that time period, we had COVID and we went through quarantines. And the thing about the quarantine was that it put us all in a frame of mind where we're thinking virtual reality is something to help make remote experiences better. And so we think of it as something that, if someone's off site, maybe we can give them a better experience so they can feel like as if they're on site. But I think that mixed reality presents something very, very different. And I want to talk about my own journey learning about virtual reality and what has led me to these conclusions. I got my first VR headset in 2019, so not that long ago. It was the Oculus Quest. That's a standalone headset that came before the Quest 2. And I was really shocked when I got it. I put it on and I was like, I didn't realize technology had come this far. It was a real moment, I think, in the history of this technology. And another thing happened when I put it on. I tried out some social experiences. I logged in apps like AltSpace VR. And when I met other people, looking at them in stereoscopic 3D in a way that matches the natural movement of my body and my own eyes, and saw them and saw their movement reflected in their head and their hands, as simple as it was, I felt like I was actually there with them in that room. And it was, they also had spatial audio, right? So the voice is coming from where you expect it to come from. And even the dynamics that we take for granted in our everyday lives, such as our personal bubbles. You walk up to someone, they take a step back. That happens in virtual reality. And I fell in love with the technology. I was like, this is incredible. So I started learning how to develop for it, learned Unity, and I was already a 3D graphics artist at the time. And from there, I went to Accenture. At Accenture, they launched 60,000 headsets to their employees worldwide, and I was working on a team to create experiences for that. And I learned a lot about how people relate to the technology, what people expect from it, and what it takes to really deliver a good experience. But at that time, we were still approaching it from the standpoint of, how do we make remote work better? So I think, when it comes to, I'm going to take a step back here. So when we were working on that problem, we never stopped to ask, how can this technology make in-person experiences better? So after Accenture, I went on to Aquin Studios, where I currently work as the Metaverse practice leader, and I help companies like John Deere, Meta, ExxonMobil, and many other Fortune 500s to create immersive experiences and augmented reality, virtual reality, and even things like digital twins. So let's talk about what goes into creating a really good mixed reality experience. I think part of it has to do with presence. And presence is something that has been researched actually quite a lot in the XR field for the past couple of decades. And it's that feeling you get whenever you're in an experience and you are talking to someone, or maybe you're observing something, or maybe even you're participating in an activity, and you forget for a moment that you're looking through a Fresnel lens at a display 2 inches from your face at a binocular image, and you think for a moment that all this is actually real, even though it looks like a cartoon. And that person that you're with is actually someone that's in the room with you. And during those moments, it can feel really, really crystalline, and like, that there's this feeling that can only be described as presence. And I think, if we're going to deliver really good mixed reality experiences, we need to think about what are the factors that contribute to that sense of presence. So, this was taken today, actually. In a mixed reality experience, being able to pick up an object and then see that object move wherever your hand goes is probably step one to having a good experience. But also, you'll notice that the camera view here is from another headset. So not only is this person observing the act of picking up this wrench matching the movement of their hand, approximately, but also the observer is seeing it networked and sees that it is also matching the movement of their hand. So there's something about this that for a moment might fool you into thinking that you're actually holding a wrench. Then we can think of presence as being equal to the use of a shared spatial anchor. So this is going to get a little bit technical, but this is the metaverse crowd here, so I think you all can go along with me. And if you don't follow what I'm saying, raise your hand. Let's talk it through. So a shared spatial anchor in development is an anchor that is laid in the space that both headsets handshake and agree that is the origin point for that scene. The headsets both perform some math on their own to create a point cloud of the whole scene around them, and then they say, I've identified this feature, I've identified that feature, these features are in common, so that means that we can establish an anchor here and say that that's 0, 0, 0 on a coordinate system, right? So getting that presence requires the use of a shared spatial anchor asset. For our developers out there, that is something that's common in the OpenXR SDK. It's also in the Meta SDK. Apple's had it for years in their AR kit for developing AR experiences on iPhones. And Google has something similar. And Qualcomm is also rolling out their own for some of their XR chip-powered headsets as well. And they have their own SDK as well for the common game engines. There's something else, though, that contributes to presence, and that is hand tracking. You know how to use your hand. You know that when you reach it out and you make a fist or you pinch your digits together, you're going to pick up something. And I remember when I very first started using my Oculus Quest headset that I was not much of a gamer at the time. I played a few games growing up, but I'm not really good with a game controller. And so I would be in an experience, and for a moment I'd think, okay, I need to move. Was it the left hand or the right hand that I'm going to move this joystick to move? And that cuts you off from presence. That makes you, going back and thinking about the hardware that you're dealing with. So if we can do things to reduce friction in those experiences, then we should. And I believe hand tracking is going to be that. So we've seen, too, with mixed reality headsets, that on the left here, this is from the recent MetaConnect conference. They said, that we can decorate our homes with mixed reality pieces, like these little video reels that can go by, or maybe this tree. And then we remember this image from the Apple announcement, a person sitting on their couch watching a very large display in their home thanks to mixed reality. But that's only what happens when you're alone. So what happens when we use mixed reality in a social space? What happens when we get people together in MR? I believe that there's a lot of value there that can be unlocked by businesses. Because if you're training in a medical context, for instance, you might be able to use an empty hospital room now to do your training. Furthermore, when you think about getting social and taking away from being a single user experience, there might be someone there helping to train you who is a tutor. And so you're able to bring more people into these experiences and make them have a lot more depth and flexibility than experiences might have had in the past. Likewise, we might be able to train people on manufacturing practices, maybe in a break room, turn a table into a conveyor belt, or bring people to the very work site that they're going to work on, but make it virtual so that there's no risk involved. Likewise, this applies to the energy sector. There's a lot that goes on in upstream and midstream operations, and so on. We haven't yet discovered all these use cases, but with these mixed reality headsets coming out, this is a big opportunity for all of us. At Aquent, we asked ourselves this question. We said, what if you took a digital twin of a midstream refinery site, you made it small like a dollhouse, and then you transitioned from mixed reality to virtual reality, and you could enter that site at full scale. So we put together this little prototype here. And I would invite you to think about, a little bit beyond what you're seeing visually here, and think, what if you could look at that little dollhouse of a digital twin and see data for each component, be able to point and click and find details about each part, each process, what fluids are being processed there, how much, maybe whether something is due for servicing, or maybe we could move things around and say, okay, would it be more efficient if we put this tower on this side? And then we could hop into a virtual world, see it at full scale, and tour our new facility based on the changes that we've made. So this is one way that mixed reality might combine with a virtual reality and hand tracking to deliver a really unique experience. And there's another benefit, I think, to mixed reality. In my experiences with delivering demonstrations to people, there's always a few that stand off to the side and say, I'm afraid to get into virtual reality. I'm afraid that when the whole world disappears in front of me, that I might lose my balance and fall, or might hit something. This just all seems really dangerous. I might look stupid. And mixed reality gives people an opportunity to step into an experience and to feel perfectly in control. And then with, like what we just saw on that previous slide, being able to go from mixed reality to full dive VR allows people to enter when they're ready and in a way that feels safe and comfortable for them. So I believe in a world that is returning to work and not staying remote, that mixed reality is going to be the path forward to businesses who are building XR experiences. I believe that by extending the physical spaces that we're in with super capabilities, that we will be able to continue to get more and more productivity and value out of this technology. So it's not about bringing people together remotely, but it's about making work happen better on site. And on top of that, if you do have people off site that you need to get into an experience, we can make that happen too. They can join as an avatar. Now, for our designers out there, you might be thinking there's definitely some UX problems here, and I would invite you to think about some of those problems and figure out how you plan on solving that. For instance, someone joining in a session as an avatar can't see the scene that you're in. You could try to recreate it for them, perhaps. That would involve a whole different work stream. You could, and another thing to consider too is even if they don't need to see the scene, where are they? And if they're inside of a wall, it creates some really interesting forced perspective optical illusions that are just not really fun to look at or easy for our brains to understand, as we see an avatar who's occupying the space that the wall is also occupying. So these are some things to consider. But when it comes to in-person experiences, and when you're using shared spatial anchors, whether you're in mixed reality or virtual reality, you'll never collide with someone because if your avatar is close to theirs, you're probably about to hit them. So just want to thank you all for considering mixed reality and thinking through some of these challenges with me and thinking about how we can create better experiences going forward. If you want to see some of these examples that I showed here, stop by our booth before we shut down today. We have a two-user experience there, and we use hand tracking, we use shared spatial anchors and networking so that both users have an experience where they can see what the other person is doing. So anyway, thank you all for taking the time to watch this, and I'll see you at the booth.